if you have your lymph system, let's say in the breast, that's not draining very well, and I'm going to use breast again. If it's not draining well, then you start getting lumps, you get inflammation, and then you get inflammatory carcinomas, and you end up with these masses in the breast because the lymph system isn't draining. And I have seen cases of using acupuncture, brushing, and ways of getting the lymph to start moving, and having those kind of masses like cysts and not the malignant ones, but the ones that aren't malignant, go away entirely because you're getting the lymph system moving again. So.
Well, good morning, everybody. Let's see how many are starting to join. Today is the Barton Publishing webinar with Dr. Scott Saunders, and it's May 18th. So as everyone's joining, why don't you give our disclaimer, Dr. Scott?
Okay, remember that what we're giving here is for general information that applies to a lot of people, and it's information that may apply to you, but in order to be sure of that, it's a good idea to work with your professional, whoever you're working with, to give advice, your doctor or whoever's your professional, to help you to see if that's the proper thing for you, because it may not fit your situation. So make sure you apply the information properly.
All right, great. Got that out of the way. And let's get started on today's topic, which is the lymphatic system. I think it's a big system that gets very little attention. And so I think if you address it, you get a big result. So you just wrote an article for Home Cures, which won't be published until June, but you today the viewers get a sneak peek at what this article is about. So why don't you go ahead and start sharing about the lymphatic system and why it's important and what goes wrong if you don't take care of it.
Okay, so the lymphatic system is really important, and nobody even cares about it until something goes wrong. And that's one of those things that nobody even wants to talk about until something goes wrong. But it's actually really important that you do something about it and not let something go wrong, because the lymphatic system is really has a lot to do with the detox system and drainage and getting everything clear in our bodies, and having cleansing. All of that is really lymphatic stuff. So people talk about they're going to do a cleanse, right? And they're going to take this pill and that pill and drink this potion and whatever to cleanse. And they don't even think about, hey, the lymphatic system is what does that. And so why don't we deal with how the lymph system works? So let me tell you a little bit about what it is. If you think, you've probably heard, I don't know if you've ever taken a health class in high school or whatever, they always say, you have how many thousands of miles of blood vessels in your body, right? And there's miles and miles and miles of blood vessels. If you were to line them all up, then it would be so many, and you're like, wow, that's a lot. Okay, the lymph system is another system of vessels. They're lymph vessels, and there's twice as much as all your blood vessels. So you think of all your arteries and veins and capillaries and all that stuff, and add them all up, you have twice as much in the lymph system. Why? Why is that important? Because the arteries pump blood in, and the veins get most of the cells and the blood out, and then there's this fluid left in your skin and in your tissues all over. It's just fluid, and it's sitting there, and it has stuff in it. It has waste products. You know, who's going to take out the trash for all these cells? And the cells need to get rid of their junk, right? And they can't be like swimming in their own poop it's like sewage. So it's got to be cleansed out. And the veins don't have any way of cleansing that out. So you have this miraculous, how this works is amazing. So the veins have very tiny holes in them to let fluid back in so that it can get back to the heart, right? And so that water can get back in. And it keeps all the proteins in, and they kind of attract the water so that it can bring some of the water back in. But what about all the cells and the other stuff, the proteins and stuff that's left over from what your cells are metabolizing, right? Well, that's the lymph system. The lymph system pulls all that out, and it's really cool. So you have a sieve that in the lymph system that is like allows proteins and even cells, and then the blood, the vessels themselves, the lymph vessels have muscles, and they squeeze, and as they squeeze and they relax, and then they squeeze and they relax, and it's not a lot, it's just a little squeezing and relaxing, but that movement and there's valves in there so that it can only, so that the lymph can only go one way. It goes up, and then the valve keeps it from going backwards. So as it's squeezing, what's happening? Well, the valves keep it moving forward up a little bit more, until it gets back into the big vein of your heart and gets back into the heart, and then circulates in the blood again, right? And so as it circulates in the blood, then the liver and the kidneys can get rid of those toxins out and get them out of the body. Without the lymph system, you can't do that. And if you've ever seen a picture of people that don't have a good lymph system, they're horrible pictures. They look painful, but it's actually not even painful. They just swell a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. So over like months and years, they're getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and there's nothing they can do about it. In some areas of the world, there's mosquitoes that have a parasite, and the parasite gets into the lymph system, and it plugs up the lymph nodes and the whole lymph system. So like one leg will be huge, and then another leg will be like skinny, because the lymph system isn't draining that fluid back the way it's supposed to. It isn't cleaning it out. So it's remarkable, and it's wonderful, and it's necessary. And if you've ever known anybody that's had, like, a common thing would be breast cancer. After breast cancer, when they do surgery, they'll take in the axilla, in the armpit, there's a whole bunch of lymph nodes there. And the surgeon will take out the lymph nodes, and it's mostly to see if there's any of the cancer from the breast, which actually the lymph system from the breast goes to there's lymph nodes in the axilla. So they pull all those lymph nodes out just in case there's any cancer in them, right? Well, what ends up happening then is the arm has to drain through the same lymph nodes, right? So now you don't have any lymph nodes there, and all those lymph vessels are blocked up. So what happens? Well, the arm swells up, and that's kind of a common problem when they do that surgery, is that you look at people who've had that surgery, and one arm is like this big and the other arm is this big, and it is uncomfortable. It's not like a painful thing usually, but it is uncomfortable to have one arm significantly bigger and you can't like get full range of motion in it often. So what do you do about this lymph system? Well, you want it to function well, and you don't have to think about it as long as it functions well. When it doesn't function, it's bad. So, for example, if you have your lymph system, let's say in the breast, that's not draining very well, and I'm going to use breast again. If it's not draining well, then you start getting lumps, you get inflammation, and then you get inflammatory carcinomas, and you end up with these masses in the breast because the lymph system isn't draining. And I have seen cases of using acupuncture, brushing, and ways of getting the lymph to start moving, and having those kind of masses like cysts and not the malignant ones, but the ones that aren't malignant, go away entirely because you're getting the lymph system moving again. So decreasing inflammation, stopping swelling. Have you ever seen like in the skin, like there's smooth skin, and then there's skin that's little punctate marks in it. And it looks like it's kind of like puffed up when there's little holes in it. That's edema in the top layer of skin, and that's typical of like thyroid. So when the thyroid doesn't function, your lymph system doesn't work as well either. It's slow and sluggish. And when it's slow and sluggish, then it doesn't drain things well. So you get swelling in your legs, and you get swelling under your skin, like all over. And you can see it in the face because of the skin isn't perfectly smooth. And you can, if you look, you can see it in other areas, and especially like in the lower extremities in the feet and legs. So it's a good idea to keep your lymph system functioning well. And one important thing that I just mentioned is getting the thyroid to work well. Because if you have good levels of thyroid, then you're not going to get that edema in your top layer of skin, or anywhere else for that matter, from that problem. Another thing to do is exercise. If you exercise, then you move things around. Remember, the lymph system doesn't have a heart to pump through it. This is all very low. It's a low pressure system, a very low pressure system. So it moves by your movement. When I move around my arms, those lymph vessels are going, and they're moving lymph through it. And so if you want to detox something, moving around is a great idea. Sweating is another great idea. Sweating is another way of getting that fluid out from your skin. And they have kinds of massage and brushing that are often used for the lymphatic system. One thing that's important that we often don't think about is breathing. You think about, okay, when I breathe, that just puts air in my lungs. Well, yeah, that's important. But you don't realize that if you're like shallow breathing and you're barely moving any air, then you can get air through your lungs. But it's only when you take a deep breath, like the diaphragmatic breathing, like what you learn when you're singing, when you're learning how to sing, getting the diaphragms to pull down. When they do that, what happens is the decreased pressure just sucks all that lymph up and allows it cleans out your lymph system. And it's twice as good as exercise. So exercise is good, but a good deep breathing is twice as good. So if you periodically take time out of your day to deep breathe, that will cleanse out your lymph system too. Isn't that amazing?
You even mentioned in your article, maybe that's the cure for, that's why we sigh sometimes.
Yeah. I wonder.
You just take a deep breath and you sigh, that maybe that's cleaning out your lymph system, even without, subconsciously.
Right. I wonder if there's like some automatic, where your autonomic nervous system is saying, oh, the lymph system is building up pressure. Okay, that pulls it in and circulates it. I don't know.
Now, you talked about the little spots on the face that can show that maybe it's a thyroid issue before a lymphatic issue. Now, I'm going to talk to the ladies. What about cellulite on the lower extremities where it tends to gain? Is that a symptom of a sluggish lymphatic system?
It's possible in some people. That's not always the case, but when there's extra fluid building up and you have this extra fat tissue under the skin and you're building fluid around it, it may look bumpier because for the same reason that you see the little teeny bumps in the skin, because it's putting pressure up in the skin in certain places instead of evenly. So it's not even pressure. And if you see people who have lymphatic drainage problems, like that have that parasite that gets into the lymph system, it's not even. It's not like it's not like edema that you get from congestive heart failure, where it just gets bigger in the same, like, equally. No, the lymph system, it'll be unequal. So in many cases, if you see like cellulite, may not be just fat. It might be edema from lymphedema. That's exactly right.
And in your article, you mentioned some other remedies, hot stones and dry brushing. Do you want to talk about how those can be effective to improving your lymphatic system?
Yeah, so hot stones, they heat the stones up to about 130 degrees, and they're just small. They're not huge stones. They don't put a lot of weight. The warmth, having the warmth in certain places where it's not warm in other places, is something that allows flow. It dilates the vessels where it's warm. And so you have more of that constriction. And then the brush I thought was fascinating. It's just a very light, natural bristle brush that really, it's like the ones that we have in the shower that we clean our backs off with. And it's just a natural bristle brush. And you brush it lightly along the skin. You don't have to go deep and do a deep massage. Although deep massage can help the lymph system function as well. But in the lymph massage with the brush is a light brush. So what it does is, in stimulating the skin, it causes contractions in those lymph vessels and moves things through quickly. So it's the way it works is kind of amazing. So you have this sort of sieve all over the place in these, millions and millions of vessels. And as it squeezes the lymph through and has valves, it sucks up all of the fluid around. It's like having little straws that are like, it's sucking up all the excess fluid around and keeping things moving through. So as you brush over the top of it, it stimulates that. And it doesn't have to be a brush. A lymph massage, if you go to a massage therapist that knows what they're doing with the lymph system, they will often do a very light massage. It's very specific because they want to move it in the direction of the way the lymph vessels are going. And it's not like a deep, thumbs or knuckle massage. It's actually our elbows. It's a light brushing motion. The purpose is not to push the fluid through. It's to get those vessels to start sucking up all the fluid and moving it through. It's really interesting.
I would like one of those massages. And I had a thought. I've heard is there a separate lymphatic system in the brain?
Ah, wow, that's amazing. Yes, there is. They just found it. They always said no, there wasn't, that all you have is the cerebrospinal fluid in the brain, but they have found a separate lymph system in the brain. In fact, it's really interesting because they said they're going to have to redo all the anatomy textbooks because they found this system. So it turns out it works at night while you're sleeping, and so sleep is really important to get this lymph to drain out all of the tau proteins and the trash, right? The sewage of the cells that are just spitting out all their junk, and then this drains it out at night while you're sleeping. It's really interesting.
I saw a video that I was watching from someone who has a product that you can use. So you can do a dry brush, which is brushing your skin towards your lymph nodes. They have not just the hot stones, but like a tool that's a stone that has minerals in it that you can use to brush your skin and not scrape it, but move it along. Then they were using it on the head. So it's just the same thing you do on the body. It's just you bring it over your head and you drain it into the lymphs in your neck. But how does, like, so when I think about the lymphatic system, I think it's under the skin, under the fatty tissue. So how does that work in the brain if there's not necessarily fatty tissue underneath your skull, like right underneath your skin?
Okay, so you're going to have, you're talking about two separate systems. One is the under the skin, the scalp lymph system, which is going to drain into the lymph nodes and everything. But there's also an internal under the skull lymph system that it's complete. It's a separate system, and there's no fat necessarily involved in that. There's no fat there, but there's the cells. There's a lot of fatty acids. All the cells of your brain are made up of essentially fat. Anyway, so that all drains also. They're separate systems completely.
Very interesting. I think very interesting. We do have a question from one of the viewers. So my mom has edema in her leg for 10 years. She takes a low dose of hydrochloride. She walks 1 mile 2 times a day. How can we get the swelling to go down?
Okay. That kind of a question is first to look at why it's swollen. So sometimes it's a venous problem. It's if you have varicose veins, for example, then that can cause swelling separately from a lymphatic drainage. So knowing why you have it is the first thing. And then the second thing is, how do you get, like, let's say it is the lymph system and there's significant swelling. What do you do about that? How do you get it to drain? Does just elevating it help? Not necessarily. It can help somewhat because you get more drainage into the veins, but the tissues still don't drain when you raise or elevate a leg, for example. Pressure can be helpful. They made these boots that have like rollers in them that just push. They actually physically push fluid up, and that mostly gets it into the veins. And if there's any lymphatics in there, it'll help that too. And that can keep somebody from getting elephantiasis, where they just get bigger and bigger and bigger.
I forgot to ask you, besides the swollen extremities, what are other symptoms that some of our viewers can look out for if they think they have a sluggish lymphatic system before it gets to swollen body parts?
Okay, swelling anywhere could be an issue, or even inflammation. Sometimes, like the breasts I use a lot because there's a lot of lymphatic tissue there and it's in the skin and you can feel it. But so if there's lumps in the breast, for example, sometimes that's poor lymphatic drainage. Or lumps anywhere in the body, you can feel lymph nodes, and there's specific places where you find lymph nodes in the groin, in the axilla, and in the neck, where you can feel it. And if they're enlarged, very often that's a viral infection or something like that, and then you can feel the lymph nodes enlarged certain places, or inflammation. So red, hot, swollen, tender. All of those things may indicate a lymphatic drainage problem or just an infectious disease.
Now, does the lymphatic system affect the digestive system?
Oh, it's huge. It's huge. Okay, so this is really interesting. Your digestive system requires the lymphatic system because all your fats are absorbed through the wall of your intestines. They go into the lymph vessels and go directly into the blood. They don't pass through the liver. Everything else, everything that goes into the blood, like amino acids and vitamins and minerals, they all go through the liver first. The liver has to make sure, yeah, that's okay, that's okay. Oh, no, you can detox that. That's okay. No, you gotta get rid of that. Okay. So the liver is letting things go through. The lymph system is what takes all the fats in. So when you eat, I don't know, French fries, right? All the potato stuff is going to go through your liver, but all this fat stuff that it was boiled in is going to go into your lymphatic system, and that is especially vulnerable to fat soluble toxins. So those toxins can do damage because there's no liver there to get rid of them. You have the immune system in the lymphatic system, so you have macrophages to eat up any like cells and stuff that are in there that aren't supposed to be there. But it can be toxic. So when you lose your lymphatic system, when the lymphatic system in the intestines don't work, then you get bloating, things don't work well, you eat fat and you go, oh, I feel bloated, I feel awful, and it doesn't work. So here's what's really cool. It's been shown that it only takes 4 days. So you keep your stomach empty for 4 days, and during those 4 days, your intestines will rebuild the lymphatic system in 4 days. Isn't that amazing?
4 days out of 365, you can do it.
Once a year. That's what I thought. Once a year, do a cleanse, a 4-day cleanse, where you don't take in anything. You just drink water, and that would rebuild the lymphatic system in your intestines.
And get a hot rock massage, just because.
Just because. What the heck?
Yeah. Now, I have no idea if the lymphatic system is connected to diabetes at all. I know we have a lot of people here. We have diabetes questions, but is there a connection?
Well, no. Diabetes is the metabolism, the chemistry. It will affect the immune system somewhat. So the lymphatic system, of course, you've heard of the lymph nodes, and lymph nodes are what filters out all the bacteria so that you don't get infections spreading all over your body. The diabetes can suppress the immune system somewhat, but besides that, there isn't a specific cause effect. Yeah.
Okay, well, we do have some other lymphatic questions. This is from Roy. Sometimes when I get too much salt in my diet and I find that my feet swell, does too much salt affect the lymphatic system, and how much is too much?
Oh, that's a good point. So this probably isn't specifically lymphatic, but it could be, because it could mean that you're not draining very well. So what salt does when you're eating salt, if your kidneys aren't getting rid of salt very well, sodium specifically, then your blood volume increases. And as your blood volume increases, then the water runs downhill, right? So it's gonna start collecting in your feet. And your kidneys aren't seeing that excess water. It's just collecting in your feet, and your ankles are getting bigger. So there's no incentive for the kidneys to say, hey, let's get rid of the extra water. So then you drink more, eat more salt, and it collects more. So that can happen partially because of the venous system, and it's a leaky venous system. But the other part is the lymphatic system is not bringing that fluid out. And so what do you do about that? Well, that's where you exercise, you start moving so the lymphatic system moves. You keep your feet elevated so that it runs downhill and becomes part of your blood again. And then they have those stockings, those real tight compression stockings for that.
Okay. One thing we didn't talk about was sweating, and how that in fact affects the lymphatic system. You say exercise, but what does sweating actually do? Going into a sauna or sweating from exercise?
sweating pulls fluid out through glands that are the sweat glands in your skin. And getting that extra fluid out is great for the lymphatic circulation. It really helps. And it's a good detox. And you're getting rid of things that are waste also. But also salts, you're getting rid of extra salts doing that, sodium especially. So yeah, it's really good for the lymphatic system. It really helps things move through well.
All right, good. All right, we have another question. After having master lymph node removed, why is the axilla hard and swollen? This procedure was done after removing calcified cancer cyst in left breast.
Okay, so that's what I was talking about. When that surgery is done, when the lymph nodes under your armpit are removed, so the master one is the main one where the lymph vessels come in through it. There's a lot of there's several little ones, and then and that hardness is collecting fluid. Fluid will collect in that area. And it'll just stay there, or you can have scar tissue for other reasons and have a hardness in that spot. But very often what happens is you get a fluid collection right where that was, because the lymph vessels are coming in, but the node's not there anymore.
So is there anything she can do or he can do about it being hard and swollen?
Yeah, that's a tough one. That's not an easy thing to do. So lymphatic massage may be helpful. Rebuilding the lymph system with exercise, fasting. Yeah, it's not easy. I've tried it with a lot of women who've had that surgery, and it's something that most of them have to live with.
Well, start that lymphatic drainage now before it becomes a problem. Sandra asks, if I had a gallbladder removal, if I had my gallbladder removed, what would that affect? How would that affect my lymphatic system?
Well, it affects mostly in the digestion, because when your gallbladder is removed, then you don't have, like when you eat, you don't get a squirt of the bile to make the fat soluble that then go into the intestinal lymphatic system. Instead, you're getting this constant trickle of bile going through your intestines, through your small intestine. So that can affect the lymphatic system of the intestines a lot. Because those bile acids are they make fats soluble, and then they get into the lymph system and they get recycled that way.
Today's Fixed Blood Sugar webinar is sponsored by Synachroma, our best-selling advanced blood sugar support formula. Now, thousands of people around the world are taking Synachroma every day as part of their program to fix their blood sugar, using natural ingredients that simply work. Now, Dr. Saunders formulated Synachroma to meet key nutritional deficiencies that most people have unknowingly suffered from for far too long. With Synachroma, you get a blend of 6 key ingredients. The perfect combination of chromium, vitamin D3, and vitamin K2, which it's important to take those two together, selenium, vanadium, and our 10-to-1 cinnamon bark extract. Now, if you're not already using Synachroma, I highly recommend that you give it a try and see how it helps your energy, your weight, and your blood sugar numbers. You can get Synachroma at bartonnutrition.com or on Amazon. If you get it at bartonnutrition.com, you can enter the coupon code webinar25 and you'll save 25% off at bartonnutrition.com. But I realize some people like to go to Amazon as well. So anyways, Synachroma, highly recommend. Now let's get you back to the Fixed Blood Sugar webinar.
Okay. We haven't really talked about non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Is that basically a cancer of the lymph nodes, lymph system?
Okay, that's a great question. So lymphoma is a lymph system cancer, essentially. And there's Hodgkin's disease, there's non-Hodgkin's. They're cancers of the lymph system. And they can either be lymph vessels or the lymph nodes. It can start in the lymph nodes. And from there, it can spread through the lymph system to other lymph nodes. It is a cancer. And it is part of the problem is if the lymph system isn't working properly, if it's plugged up and things aren't moving through it. So I just think it's a good idea to get your lymph system moving and exercise, even massage, if that's what it takes, but moving things through.
Does stress affect the lymph system?
Yes. Stress, as it affects muscles and keeps things like tension, if there's tension around, then the lymph system doesn't flow very well. So the relaxation, which is one reason why massage improves lymph flow. So you don't have to have massage 24 hours a day, pushing everything through. You get a massage, relax everything, and so the lymph vessels, things can move through well. A lot of what moves the larger lymph vessels is the muscles putting pressure on them. So as you're using your muscles, I have 6 different muscles, 8 different muscles, right, just in this part of my arm, and the lymph system moves between those. And as I'm using different muscles, I'm causing contraction and pressure against those lymph vessels, moving things through. So, and if there's a lot of tension, and then it blocks the lymph system from moving through.
That totally makes sense. Here's an interesting question from Johanna. Is toenail fungus related to the lymph nodes?
Oh, that is a very interesting question. The answer is I don't know. Toenail fungus is, because fungus, fungal infections happen when there's no T cell immunity, which is cellular immunity. I suppose it might, but that's a very interesting question, and I'd have to research that to find out.
Interesting. She asks, as a type 2, how does she get rid of toenail fungus?
Okay, that's a great question. It's not that easy. What you need is good circulation, and then the toenail that is infected is still going to be infected, and it has to grow out all the way, and you're clipping off the infected part as the new nail grows in. And I've seen people use various things, tea tree oil, for example, putting a drop of tea tree oil on an infected toenail, and you have to do it like regularly, like daily. I had a patient. He looked it up and he told me about it. I said, yeah, you could try it. And it was Vicks Vapor Rub that has eucalyptus oil in it. And he said that worked well. That as the old toenail grew out, he cut off all the fungus, and I had a good nail after that. So tea tree oil, eucalyptus oil, or oregano oil, or garlic. They make a garlic oil. Why the oils? Because it has to penetrate the nail. If you like the colloidal silver, someone asked me about that, and I looked it up, and the silver doesn't actually penetrate the nail at all, so it may not be as useful.
And I'm sure I've bought toenail fungus remedies, just natural, from off of Amazon, and I had to do it morning and night, but it worked. So try those remedies. All right. Now for some more specific diabetes questions. We have 2 questions from this person. Number 1, what does glipizide do, and what does a product like Ozempic? Ozempic?
How's it spelled?
Ozempic. And if you're trying to get off these prescriptions, what would be the first thing? Which one would be the first one to drop?
Okay. So glipizide is it is something that tells your pancreas to make more insulin. And your problem is insulin resistance, and you have too much insulin. So it may drop your blood sugar temporarily, but it isn't a good idea because it'll increase your insulin resistance over time. So that would be the first one I would take off. The other one,
I was looking it up. It's semaglutide injection.
Yeah, semaglutide. Yeah, that's a sitagliptin-1 agonist. So what that does is it works on a different system. It's not the insulin system. It's sitagliptin, which is a peptide, and it makes you more sensitive to the insulin that you have. In some ways, that's better, but again, it over time it will. It's better to do the diet. So okay, your question is, what's the first one to get off of? I think the glipizide. I take people off of that one first. So that's the kind of thing you talk to your doctor about. What should I get off first? But the way you handle this is to say, I'm doing this program and I'm eating a very low carbohydrate diet and my blood sugar is dropping down. And then you ask your doctor, which one should I get off first? Because the glipizide will tend to drop your blood sugar below normal, so you could get hypoglycemia. Whereas with the sitagliptin one, you don't have that issue. So that's why.
All right. Okay, and I'm going to go back to someone who asked about, they have a raised area on the left side of their lower neck near their clavicle that wraps around a bit. Have been told it's just fatty tissue. That doesn't make sense to me. The right side is fine. What can I do to get that to go down?
You know what? I have seen that before. And that's a real thing. And I felt it, and I don't know if it's exactly the same thing you have, but I had a patient with that, and it is, I don't know what it is, but you know what? It went away when her inflammation went away. When she got better, she was pretty sick, and she had that, and I think it was edema. I think it was like some kind of fluid. Maybe the lymph system wasn't working well. Because there's a lot of lymph nodes up there too, and it wasn't a lymph node. And you know what? I felt it, and it felt like fat, kind of. But when it went away, I realized that wasn't fat. That must have been some kind of fluid or edema in there. So the question of how to get it to go away, try lymphatic drainage. So lymphatic massage, the hot stones or whatever, put heat on it. If you know of somebody who's a specialist in lymphatic massage, you might try that and have them take a look at it, because there's got to be a better way. Because the patient that I had, she was pretty sick, and she had that swelling right there and that near the clavicle, and it wasn't a lymph node, but it did go away. So I know it can go away.
Yeah, Sue says there's no bump, but it has been there for years. So there's still hope it'll go away, it sounds like. Do some lymphatic drainage.
Well, for years, I don't know if you can get it to go away after years. I don't know.
All right, here's another diabetes questions. Where can I get a list of the blood tests that this is high blood pressure. Yeah, no. Where can I get a list of the blood tests that Dr. Saunders uses for finding out what is causing my high blood sugar?
Okay, it's on the website. And I know Leslie put it in there, and I don't know exactly where it is, but if you send an email to Leslie, she'll tell you exactly where it is.
Yeah, Leslie's email is leslie@bartonpublishing.com, and I'm sure she'll be happy to answer your question. I'm guessing maybe it's on the Barton webinar webpage. If you scroll down, you might be able to find that answered there. I will look to see if it's there while Dr. Scott answers the next question. I take 16 ounces with 4 sugars and put this into an empty 64-ounce bottle and add 2 packages of True Lemon blueberry acacia, no sugar, and fill with water. I drink 1 glass a day and drink water the rest of the day. Just had a blood test for A1C, results soon.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, 1 glass a day. I don't know. This says there's no sugar in it, I suppose.
It sounds like he put 4 sugars in it, and he's drinking that only, plus some like drink flavors, and hoping blood sugar will go down. Yeah.
So it's kind of like a cleanse.
It sounds like it.
Yeah, sounds like.
All right, I'm looking to see if that's if the list of which blood tests you need is on the Barton webinar page. I do not see it. So let's definitely ask Leslie, and Leslie will be able to answer your question. Okay, we did that one. All right. It looks like there are no other questions. Anyone else want to, let me see if there's one more. Nope. Anybody else have a question about diabetes or high blood sugar? You know what? One thing we didn't talk about was fiber in the lymph system.
Oh, fiber. Okay. Diet is actually really important. So remember what I was saying about how the intestinal lymph system requires or is what takes up all the fat. And one of the things that fiber does is prevents it all from getting dumped into the same spot. So it allows the fat to be absorbed more gradually. So that's one part. But fiber is also very important for getting the right bacteria into your intestines. So we think that, or we were told in medical school, and even before that, I was a microbiologist, and we were told, you know, bacteria are bad and viruses are bad and all that. And the reality is that what you want is to have the good bacteria with you all the time, so that you have balance, because all the bacteria are going to be around you, and the more bacteria you have, the better. So when you have a lot of fiber, you're feeding the good bacteria. So the higher the fiber in your diet and the more varied, the more different types of fiber you have, the better off you are, the less likely you are to get infections and cancers and lymphatic problems.
Okay. Krish has a question. Two questions. Cardamom has a sweet flavor, and what touches the tongue, will it trigger insulin secretion? The second question is, I was going to order glutathione supplement, but noticed on the internet that oral supplementation of glutathione is useless since it's destroyed by stomach acid. Is that true?
Yeah, glutathione is 3 amino acids, and they're pretty much broken down pretty quickly in the stomach, mostly. They have these liposomal glutathione that do seem to get in to the system because they don't go through the liver, they go through the lymphatic system. So they may help, but mostly the glutathione supplements that people are taking are being broken down into their 3 amino acids, and then they get absorbed in, and they go up into the liver, and the liver goes, oh, I have cysteine and glycine and that's the other one. Anyway, the 3 amino acids, and starts making glutathione. So then your glutathione level goes up because you're taking the amino acids that make glutathione, so your liver makes it. So either way, you can actually increase your glutathione. So it's not it's not useless. It's just, yes, it's true. It is broken down in the stomach pretty quickly.
What about cardamom? So cardamom is a spice similar to cinnamon a little bit, I think.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So cardamom has kind of a sweet flavor, and then like licorice kind of has a sweet flavor. And so the question is, do those things increase insulin production and cause more insulin resistance? I don't know. I don't have any research on that. The research with other things like stevia and artificial sweeteners that are commercially made are that in some people it does, and overall, when large groups are studied, people that are eating sweet tasting things, even if they're non-caloric, do gain weight faster, and because they have higher insulin levels. So, but there's no direct correlation specifically, at least not that I know of.
Okay. Tom has an interesting question. What does the doctor think will be the next breakthrough in treatment for diabetes? Are there any interesting studies going on that you are excited about?
Ooh, yeah. You know, for type 1 diabetes, there's just amazing things they're doing with a artificial pancreas. And it's just a little artificial pancreas. Yeah, you have to fill the well with insulin, but it's like totally automatic. It measures your blood sugar goes up, it releases a little bit of insulin and keeps the blood sugar within a range. And it's really, really amazing. Like these are being tested already. They're not available on the commercial market, but you know, it's only a matter of time. I think that's really cool. For type 2 diabetes, the next step is primarily along the lines of lifestyle change. As we're moving forward, we're seeing, even like in medical schools, they're teaching about instead of using drugs, you can do lifestyle changes. And then there's other research that's actually very interesting in diabetes, and that is bacteria in your intestines. If you feed the good bacteria, then your risk or rate of diabetes drops lower too. So that's another area of research that's very interesting.
By the way, we have something that will help your gut bacteria, don't we?
Yeah.
Well, we have two products, really, Fiber Greens and Healthy Gut.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Healthy Gut Support has both probiotics and prebiotics in it to help replace that for people who have an issue with it.
We have a question from Patricia. My alternative doctor recommended Berberine to lower blood sugar. What do you think?
I think Berberine's great, and it works fairly well, and it works as well as metformin, for example, and doesn't have any of the side effects of metformin. So I think it's a good idea. I actually, as I study berberine more, I'm like, wow, this is a really cool herb. It really does a lot. It's anti-cancer. It helps blood sugar. It helps metabolism. It increases longevity. It's really, I think, good.
So do it, Patricia. Let's see. Wow, there's a lot more questions here than I realized. What's good? What would be good to clean the gallbladder once or twice a year?
Okay, gallbladder cleanse. So the best way to manage your gallbladder is a very high fiber diet. So like I said before, with the lymph system, with the lymphatic system, you want high fiber. because the fiber will hold on to the fats as well. And so it'll be absorbed more gradually. It also holds on to the secondary bile acids, so you don't recycle your bile acids a ton of times, so that you're regenerating new bile acids so that you don't get like gallstones and sludge in your gallbladder. So fiber is the key to that kind of thing. So then people do a gallbladder cleanse by they'll fast and then take like a cup of lemon juice with of olive oil, and then what that does is causes the gallbladder to just squeeze, and it just like squeezes all the bile out because you have all that oil and acid. And that's okay. I don't have any issue with that. I've never done that myself, and I don't know that I've ever recommended that. I think just keeping your gallbladder clean by having a very high fiber diet is the best way.
Definitely sounds better than all the squeezing. So I saw a question from Michael Moore. Can you talk about metformin? We just mentioned it. What options are there that do not have the side effects metformin has, like berberine?
Yeah, berberine, cinnamon. We put cinnamon in ours. Berberine is good. And you know what? You don't need any medications. We were talking about how metformin, one of our past recent webinars, we were talking about how metformin is also anti-aging. It actually inhibits an enzyme that causes aging. So it helps people to maybe live longer. There's a research going on right now in that very field of whether it's going to help people live longer or not. Metformin by itself isn't bad. It does have some side effects, though. It does cause nausea. And so if you're having side effects from it and you want to get off it, then that's where you talk to your doctor and you say, okay, I'm doing this program and I'm on this really strict diet. I can only have 20 grams of carbohydrates a day. And I want to, my blood sugar's dropping down, and is it a good idea for me to get off metformin? And so then that's how you work with your doctor.
Okay. Anonymous, I've been on the program for over a month now. Thankfully, my blood glucose is consistently less than 100. What do you think my A1C will be? I want to retest it at the end of this month. I want my readings to be between 70 and 85. What else can I do? I'm still on Cinachroma once daily.
Okay. The diet is great. If you're under 100 all the time, and between 70 and 85 is great. Eating less frequently is something that can help. And what do I think the hemoglobin? Well, hemoglobin A1C, if I could guess, if your average is under 100, then your hemoglobin A1C is going to be in the 5.0 range, which is excellent.
Keep up the good work. Yeah. You're on a roll, I would say. And we do have the option sometime to take 2 Cinachroma a day, one at breakfast, one with the heaviest meal of the day, if that might help as well. Okay, Ellen Bush asks, why is my blood sugar somewhat elevated after 2 hours from eating? If I eat a snack right after, it goes down?
Well, that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
It goes down, huh? Well, I wouldn't know why that is, but it's normal that if you look at a glucose tolerance test, when you take the test, you eat whatever we usually use a glucose solution, and then the blood sugar goes up and it peaks somewhere between 1 and 2 hours and then starts going down again. So that would just be a normal postprandial after a meal blood sugar. So that wouldn't be anything unusual.
Okay. Dorothy Hershey asks, do you recommend an app for this program? I'm assuming an app to watch your blood sugar or an app to follow your food intake, or are you talking about the diabetes solution kit? I guess we should have Dorothy answer that. Genevieve asks, I missed the last 2 webinars. How can I find out the info, and are they listed by dates? So if you go to bartonwebinar.com, I think, do you repost the old webinars?
Yeah, they're all posted.
Yeah,
there.
you can also search Barton webinars on YouTube, and you can search by date. The most recent ones, the last couple will show up. So take advantage of that as well. Steve Wise wants to know, I'm in California. How can I talk to Dr. Sunders other than making an office visit?
Okay. The best way is to make an office visit. Yeah, well, if you have a simple question, send me an email, paradox@drsaunders.org.
Right.
And yeah, I'll respond to emails.
Krish asks, what are the products that promote good bacteria? I'm assuming Krish is wanting to know what our products are.
Yeah,
Tell us the difference between healthy gut and fiber greens.
Yeah, fiber greens, healthy gut support. Yeah. Yeah, but the best thing is variety of fiber, like eating salads and having carrots and jicama and celery and all different kinds of things, so that you get good fiber, a lot of different kinds of fiber.
All right. And someone asked, what is good to take for a ruptured brain aneurysm in the left occiput?
Occiput. Okay, so the occipital lobe is where the vision is. So if someone has a ruptured aneurysm, then it may affect their vision, and it could be on one side or both sides, depending on where it is. What do you do about that? Well, you make sure that ruptured aneurysm gets clipped or drained, or that it's taken care of by a neurosurgeon who could take care of that. And make sure you're not taking blood thinners or whatever is going to make that worse. Yeah, that's serious. That's something that you might even go to the hospital for.
Yeah, don't leave it untreated. So Dorothy asks, do you recommend an app for the diabetes solution kit? So
yeah, it's online.
Yeah.
You don't have to get the paper copy.
Right.
You can get it online.
You can download it to your phone, your tablet, your computer. You can have it at all times. You can take it to the grocery store with you, look at the grocery list online, and choose the best foods for you. So I hope that answers your question. One more question. I heard that stevia is okay, but is there a better one to take?
Okay, I've heard that stevia is okay too, and I've looked at the research. And they gave people stevia and to see if their insulin levels went up. Their insulin levels didn't go up. So it may be okay, but the rule is when the long-term research is done on people with insulin resistance and weight gain, that people who eat things that are sweet, even if they have no calories in them, like drinking diet sodas, for example, has been shown to increase weight gain more than even eating sugar. So what that tells me is that it's probably a good idea, especially if you're on this program, to avoid stevia. I know in our book we say, well, if you're going to have something sweet, add some stevia. I know it says it in the book, but still the ideal recommendation, I think, is just as long as you're doing the program to do it strictly and avoid the taste of sweet.
All right, I still want to ask one more question. Sue asks an important one. Why are the adrenals important as it relates to the lymphatic system?
Oh, wow. Okay. So that's huge. So your adrenal glands are what gives you your circadian rhythm. That's your sleep-wake cycles, and you wake up in the morning, your cortisol goes way up, and that's what like gets you going and moving along, and you get adrenaline from your adrenal glands, and all that's moving along, and then it goes down and down, and by nighttime it should reach its lowest point right around 10 o'clock at night. So that circadian rhythm of the adrenal glands is something of what helps the lymphatic system to work. So the lymphatic system works differently. The muscles in the lymphatics are different at night when you are repairing and cleansing and detoxing. Like I was saying, they found that in the brain, the lymphatic system didn't move much during the day. It was really only at night. And so that in that kind of a sense, the circadian rhythm from the adrenal glands is what keeps that lymphatic function going.
So if you have poor adrenals, you've stressed out your adrenals, then perhaps your lymphatic system could be sluggish.
I didn't see that, but that's a possibility.
Yeah. Now we have the battle of the sweeteners. Is Swerve better than stevia?
I don't know. I just, avoid the taste of sweet generally. And if you occasionally have something sweet, I don't, there's probably no issues with that at all. And whether you have the coconut sugar, the stevia, or the monk fruit extract or Swerve, I don't know. I don't really have any comparison to be able to say that this is better than that.
And Sally, I would add, so they're both processed. Swerve and stevia are processed, but stevia does come from a leaf at least. I'm not sure what the origin of Swerve is. It's probably all in the lab. So if I had to choose personally, I would probably choose stevia over Swerve, but that's just my choice. I know Swerve you can cook with. So maybe you're trying to do low carb. If you want to choose sweet, then Swerve might be better in baked goods. Stevia, if you have to do it, coffee, again, try it without first.
Today's Fixed Blood Sugar webinar is sponsored by Synachroma, our best-selling advanced blood sugar support formula. Now, thousands of people around the world are taking Synachroma every day as part of their program to fix their blood sugar using natural ingredients that simply work. Now, Dr. Saunders formulated Synachroma to meet key nutritional deficiencies that most people have unknowingly suffered from for far too long. With Synachroma, you get a blend of 6 key ingredients. The perfect combination of chromium, vitamin D3, and vitamin K2, which it's important to take those two together, selenium, vanadium, and our 10-to-1 cinnamon bark extract. Now, if you're not already using Synachroma, I highly recommend that you give it a try and see how it helps your energy, your weight, and your blood sugar numbers. You can get Synachroma at bartonnutrition.com or on Amazon. If you get it at bartonnutrition.com, you can enter the coupon code webinar25 and you'll save 25% off at bartonnutrition.com. But I realize some people like to go to Amazon as well. So anyways, Synachroma, highly recommend. Now let's get you back to the Fixed Blood Sugar webinar.
All right, I think we've answered all the questions. Oh, I wanted, since we're still here, one more question. Oh, is diet soda the same as zero soda?
Yes, that's all diet, zero, yeah.
All right, I've been taking 1 Synachroma a day for 90 days, and my glucose is holding around 120 to 135. Would it benefit me to take 2 a day? And at what point do I get no more benefit from using Synachroma? Michael Moore.
Okay, so the advantage of Synachroma is not like a drug. It's not like you get you take this and you get this much, your blood sugar drops down that much, and then if you take one more, then your blood sugar drops that much more. That's not the benefit of it. It's this is a supplement that are the things that are commonly deficient in people that are all required for the proper utilization of sugar. So once something functions normally, it just functions normally. If you have enough chromium, for example, then that system is going to function normally, and adding more chromium is not going to make it function better. The same thing with the vitamin D. There's a good dose of vitamin D. 5,000 units is a decent daily dose of vitamin D. And more is not necessarily better. So it's not something like oh, I'm getting this much benefit. My blood sugar has come down this much by adding one, so I'll just add another one and I'll get that much lower. That's not really the way the system works. So yes, Synachrome is useful for making sure that your biochemistry is working properly, your enzymes are functioning properly, and you don't have insulin resistance because of deficiencies. But beyond that, really, the program is the phase one of the program.
Yeah. Maybe
Right.
tell us how many carbs you're getting a day.
Yeah.
Instead of how many Synachroma you want to take. That might be the answer.
All right.
Yes, we're
care.
done. Great
Yeah.
questions. Great talk.
Thank you.
All right,
Bye.
everyone, have a great day. We'll catch you later.